bilingual nursing program?
Bilingual nursing program? It's just an incredible little invite that I got. I got a call from Dr. Cardenas, and he said, Tony, I'd like for you to come and talk to me. And at that time, Dr. Cardenas was the acting chancellor of Maricopa. And when I got there was Jack Lunsford was there, and Jack was the political whatever director for Maricopa Community Colleges, and there was a woman named oh man, I forgot her name. She'll kill me. Anyway, but there was somebody from Banner Health, the hospital, and they were saying, and so Dr. Carr says, Tony, I've been given this problem, and we need to work on it. There just isn't enough Spanish-speaking nurses. They're not producing them. They can't find them. They can't. And as a matter of fact, they were bringing in nurses from the Philippine Islands, not knowing that they were not bilingual. They probably speak Tlalong, whatever the language is. They don't speak Spanish, but they were so, and what the curiosity was, well, how much? And I asked Banner, I said, well, how much does it cost to bring in a nurse from a different country? And it's up to between 50 to 100,000 to do all the paperwork, to get all the everything done. So I said, well, wow, So that was so. What we did is we South didn't have a nursing program, and so I came back and I was talking to Kay and Kay Martin, Dr. Martins and Dr. Cordo, and I said, well, this is what's been offered, but we don't have a nursing program. But I think we can do something. And I had this rough idea of doing I had just finished a fellowship, so I figured, well, maybe we could do something like a fellowship here, and I wasn't sure. So anyway, we said we have to partner with somebody. So we approached Gateway, and they said yes. So what we would do is we would prepare the nurses here at South. At that time I don't know if they're still doing it. We had like 3 steps in the nursing program. You become a CNA, an LPN, and then an RN. The reason we did that is because if there was a stop out, you would gain a CNA or you would gain an LPN, hopefully getting an RN, but sometimes people would leave. Anyway, so we created this program. Simultaneously, this is the story that Congressman Ed Pastor said, is that his father had been in critical condition at a hospital, and he was saying there was no Spanish-speaking nurses there. All the time he was there. His father spoke English, but he just said there wasn't anybody. And so what he did is, I guess, he allocated millions of dollars. He went to he was at the Appropriations Committee at the Congress, and he got us an appropriation of $3 million. So we did stipends, and Gateway became the receiver of the nurses. We would prepare the nurses, then they would get them, they would receive them, and they would graduate them. Banner Health committed to provide summer jobs. They're committed to do, they can't hire, they could only interview because it's illegal to promise a job. So they would interview the nurses. They set up a process to interview the nurses. And we did a tracking sheet. That was the first, I don't know I know other programs do it now, but we had this idea that we wanted to, if we're going to give you a stipend and we're going to invest money in you, then you have we wanted the faculty and we wanted the student to be responsible to every month to be told how the student was doing.
Yeah.
So that became a tracking sheet. We did that. And then we did, every month we had a session where we would bring in nurses to talk about their experiences in becoming nurses, to talk about their jobs, how they do work. So basically it became what we would call a wraparound we had a counselor, we had counselors, we had every 2 weeks Gateway, Banner, and ourselves would get together, and we would have faculty meet with us. We had division chairs and stuff get together for us as we were forming the program, because it became very clear from the beginning that this idea was a feeder, and it would make classes that were difficult to make in the past. For example, microbiology, chemistry, which are requirements for nurses. So all of a sudden we had 30, 40, 50 students who had to take those classes. And students could start at, from zero, or they can start with credits. And the stipends were based on the number of credits you were taking. Anyway, that was the concept. And we had like a 99% success rate. I mean, we had 30 students the first group, and we had 99% success rate. One little rule that we had is that you could not get below a C in any coursework. If you got below a C, you're out of the program. So that was something that we also required that they do study groups. And I would explain to them, like, some study groups work really well, some of them do not work well. So I would have to explain to them, if your group is not doing well, shouldn't you go to the group that is doing well? That kind of thinking, like if you're, if that group doesn't support you, and it was interesting because now the reason why why the group work, nurses work in teams, they don't work isolated. Everything was kind of related. Now the other thing also that you have to realize is you become a nurse, at the end you have to pass the NCLEX. So that became important. So every time every semester you would be getting some information about the NCLEX, because that's the only way you're going to become a nurse. You got to pass the NCLEX. It's like the bar exam. You can't become a nurse unless you pass that test. And then of course, this is not a Hispanic program. It was a bilingual program. So we had mix of people. If you were bilingual, English and Spanish, and you passed our interviews. Now we had interviews that we would screen them, and we were looking for certain things. Well, I wasn't much. There was like there was always 3 nurses or ex-nurses that were there, and they would look for certain skills that they would ask questions. We would interview them individually for about 15, 20 minutes. And they also had to do a presentation in Spanish, so we had to know that they were, could speak Spanish, and we would interact with them in Spanish and English. They had to be fluent in both.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,